Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. We're going to be introducing the Power Platform to everybody. So just a few housekeeping points. If you have any questions, please put them in the GoToWebinar panel. I will be monitoring all questions throughout the webinar, and at the appropriate time, we'll hopefully be able to respond to those on the webinar, or I'll respond in line in the chat window. In terms of what we're going to be starting through today, just run through the agenda. So I'm going to be introducing what the Microsoft Power Platform is, so really hopefully introducing this at a basic level, so not going to be getting too technical. We're going to concentrate on the three main elements of the Power Platform, so PowerApps, Flow, and Power BI. We're going to look at examples of how they can be used. We're going to demonstrate how charities are going to be using those with Dynamics 365, pulling it all together. And then after the demonstration, I'll be outlining the pricing for these solutions. So just by a brief way of introduction, my name's Tory, Cassie, and I've also got James Glover on the call, who's our solutions architect. In terms of who Enhance are, we are Microsoft Gold partners specializing in the not-for-profit sector. And over many years, we have implemented Dynamics into a range of organizations, both from relatively small to very large with complex needs. And we've also, through our commitment and our experience, been able to, I suppose, develop and configure a framework for charities called NFP 365, which offers core fundraising, grant management, volunteer and event management needs. And this enables organizations to embrace the platform and also be able to start with, I suppose, as a framework that they can extend, meaning that it's a quicker implementation and a lower cost to organizations. So just going on to the first slide. So what is the Microsoft Power Platform? And I suppose this has been bandied around on social media and by Microsoft for quite a while now. But it came out sort of the middle of last year. And it combines the sort of power of PowerApps and Power BI and Microsoft Flow. So each one of these are powerful applications in their own right, but when you pull them together, it really does make for a true business application platform. And in the past, people have really struggled with integration with other systems, and this has taken a lot of development time, complex integrations to do this. But what the Power Platform does is brings it all together in a sort of a common data model, or the common data service that it's now called. So the common data service is a secure database where all the information from the business systems that you have can not only be stored, but it's also standardized. And this really allows for the seamless flow of data that you can get in real time. So by pulling this data from across, from Dynamics 365, Office 365, mobile apps, and your apps, as well as other third-party systems that you may have, what we sort of see is that organizations can ultimately stick these together and sort of generate a data pool as such. Now, what we've experienced in the past is that one system might call a contact, in another system it might be called something else, or it's an account or an organization, and that's where the complex mapping and the complex integration and the time and cost comes into sticking all this data together. But what the CDS has done is it standardized on these definitions or entities, and each application or term that has these different terms, what it does is that it brings sort of disambiguates the data from the different sources and maps it to the universally agreed entities. And this is really key, so it can actually recognize and understand and communicate the right information at the right time, held within the common data model into the sort of the data lake that it's called. So in terms of the data connectors that you see as well there, the data connectors are about 230 now, and there are many more that are being configured all the time. And these can be non-Microsoft systems. This could be Slack, it could be Box, could be anything like that. So in terms of, I suppose, the growth and how you can extend the solution, extend the common data service with other applications, that is ultimately very powerful. So the three key elements, as I said, is PowerApps, Flow, and Power BI. So in terms of the PowerApps, this is a really good solution which will cost very little time and money. There is no coding that's developed to do this. And it enables organizations to create a really feature-rich custom business application. And James will be showing, for example, how volunteers out in the field or if there's somebody at an event, how you can quickly enter that data into a configured app, which is seamlessly flows through to Dynamics 365 and the CDS. In terms of flow, again, before we've had to do complex workflows or complex development to ensure that actions are triggered or approvals are made, notifications. So Flow is a very easy to use tool that enables these workflows between applications. So for example, if you have a volunteer that's applied for a particular role and you've approved it and it's gone through all of that within Dynamics 365, it may be that you want to notify your HR system, so they need to update their details, and there may be information that needs to come back from the HR system into Dynamics 365 to let the volunteer manager know certain information. So Flow is great. We've really embraced it at Enhance. Our clients have really embraced it. It's a really, really powerful tool. And in terms of Power BI, this is probably the term that people know more about. It is a business analytics service. It enables you to display fantastic visuals, and we can share these on any device. But what is important as well, that it does work together with PowerApps and together with Flow. So bringing all these together into the Power Platform, embracing Dynamics 365 and Office 365, really enables organizations to get that data and the right information to the right people at the right time. So just in terms of some of the benefits of the Power Platform, why does it matter? It really does work extensively well with Microsoft Dynamics 365, and that's something that we're going to show in a bit more detail. Having little or no code, that's very much our mantra. Our mantra is when we look at Dynamics 365 or any solution that we propose, trying to use as much core functionality as possible. And with the Power Platform, you don't need a whole team of highly skilled developers to be able to perform some of the basic functions that we all need in our projects. It really does enable true digital transformation, and I know digital transformation has been bandied around, so much, and what does it really mean anymore? But working with Office 365, working with Teams, working with SharePoint and Dynamics 365 really does automate and pull all this together. Seamless integration of data. Data is key. Data is still, so important to all these projects and to every organization, and making sure that it's being pulled together in one place. So there's a unified platform. The common data model is at the heart of the solution here to ultimately deliver the accurate picture in real time for organizational data, which is stored in multiple systems. And using the power of Power BI or artificial intelligence can really ensure that decisions and people are being proactive and information is getting to the right people when they need it. So without further ado, I will hand over to James, who's going to look at how the three elements on the Power Platform, combined with Dynamics 365, can really enhance your organization.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. So what we're going to cover today is kind of how all these kind of elements hang together. So the plan is to kind of run through two different Power Apps and kind of show you how they both interact with Flow, Power BI, Dynamics 365, and all the other elements in the system. So before we get started, so Tory's talked about Power Apps and what they can do, but just for I know on the call we have a number of Dynamics 365 customers this morning. So one thing to be very aware of is PowerApps is the brand for both platforms now. So anybody who's the Dynamics 365 user, that is effectively a model-driven Power App. And then we have Canvas apps, which we're going to be showing today. So when you see the words banded around on the internet about Power Apps, they're actually referring to two separate technologies. So effectively, model-driven apps is your pretty, I'm going to create a volunteer management app with a set number of icons, but it could also be an iPhone app as well. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by kind of running through a really basic application that I built the other day, just to kind of show you the art of the possible, and then kind of show you how that was built. So I'm just going to mirror my phone onto the screen at the moment. So just to cover this thing, so when we build Power Apps, you'll notice here I can effectively create my own icons, deliver my own applications in here. So I've got like a remote check-in app. If I went in here, I've got an event management app, for example. So you can build as many applications as you want that enable you to deliver those to a mobile handset. One of the limitations currently today is you do need to be a member of the Office 365 estate. So we can't build an app and give it out to non-employees. These are in-based applications as we stand today, but it does give you the flexibility to doing quick, agile deployments of nice, simple solutions. So let's start with a NFP remote worker applications. The concept with this is just demoing how a remote worker who was doing like a customer visit, if it's kind of health and advice, and they're going along and actually visiting somebody, how they could kind of check on their status, check they've got their okay, and then also update the case notes in CRM. So it's just kind of more of a concept than anything else, so kind of showing how this could potentially work. So I'm going to open the app on my phone. So just give me a second to load this one up. So I've created a really simple app with a couple of buttons in. So let's start by me checking in. So I've arrived at site, and so people know I'm safe. I'm just going to come in here. It's popped a map up showing where I am using the longitude and latitude off my mobile phone, and it's going to allow me to sign in to say I'm here and do a check-in. Simple as that. So I've basically come in here. What's actually happened in the background is you'll notice I've just had a message pop up on the top of my phone screen because I've also got the role of kind of a team leader. So me as a team leader just had a push notification to say this worker's checked at this location, and it's all done that using Microsoft Flow. So effectively, my check-in button on my application here has called Microsoft Flow. Microsoft Flow has sent data to Dynamics 365. It's also sent data to Power BI, and it's sent a notification to my kind of team leader to say where I am. So really kind of simple interactions to do. So I'm just going to click home, and the next thing I better do it on my phone screen rather than with a mouse. The next thing I'm going to do is kind of have a look at where I've been recently. So a great example here is if I go to history, within the mobile phone app, it's leveraging Power BI and now showing all the different locations that I've been. So and I could come in here, I could zoom in. Oh, I didn't mean to rotate the map. It's hating me there today. So I could come in, have a look at the map, work out where I've been, what I've been doing, all within the application. And to show you how that's actually achieved, we'll kind of dip into the whole technical architecture design in a second. And the last area is I'm going to update some case notes. So I'm going to come in here, and this is looking at all my appointments that I've got today. So just by opening up, it's saying, okay, you've got these 3 visits today, which one do you want to do? So as our fake charity Save the Dodo, I'm having a look at this garden safe for a dodo to kind of live in. So I'm going to come up here, update my notes. So I'm going to quickly update my notes and send those back into the system. But what I might also want to do is send a survey to the customer who I'm talking to. So I'm just going to quickly come in here, and particularly I've sat with the customer, I've asked them for their best email address, and I'm just going to come in here and send them a survey of how I did on the day. So obviously if I'd had more time building this app, I would have grabbed their email automatically from the database. And if I could spell, that would help. 1 second. One of the risks of live demos is you can't type stuff correctly. There we go. So I'm going to come here and ask for some feedback. So again, nice, simple interactions. But what that's actually done in the background, if I've spelled my email address correct, is that would have sent me an email to that particular email address with a Microsoft Flow survey. So if I'm going to come in here, open my email, and hopefully we've got something. No, I mistyped someone's email address because I couldn't type. So give me just a second and see what I mistyped on that email. Let me just send it to my other one that's shorter, because I know I'll get this. So I'm going to do that and quickly send an email. And what we'll do is, whilst I wait for that email to receive, I'll show you how this app kind of hung together and what it was actually doing. So to start off with, I'm going to go into Dynamics 365. So what you'll see in here is I'm back in classic Dynamics 365 now, and I've actually got a remote worker dashboard that's showing me a Power BI report, then exactly the same Power BI report I built for the application, but this time I'm showing it in Dynamics 365. you'll also see in here, I've got all of my check-in history, including, if I just refresh this dashboard with a bit of luck, refresh all. There you go, including my check-in today. So everything's coming into Dynamics 365. And the way we achieve this, if I now go into Microsoft Flow and just have a quick look here. So if I have a look at my Microsoft Flows and look at how simple it was to do this sort of level of interaction. So I created a simple flow called PowerApps Remote Check-in. So we had a lovely Power App, and when I clicked a button, it called a Microsoft Flow. And all this Microsoft Flow did is as simple as creating a record in Dynamics 365 with data from my Power App and sending a notification. So when we talk about no code / low code, it is literally the case of dragging in blocks onto the screen and then mapping the relevant fields. So you'll see in here, I would have come in and I mapped in the date, for example. I've mapped in the latitude from the app, the longitude from the app of where I was, even my signature capture field I mapped in, and the kind of start date and who the worker was. So all we've done is literally come in here and just dragged the fields we want into the place we want to place them. Really, really simple process. So the next area is when I sent my feedback survey. Again, really, really simple interactions. So if I come in here and have a look at sending a survey form, again, it was a case of 2 blocks. So something where you would have had to write bits of code, plugins before, all I've literally done is said, when PowerApps, you click a button in PowerApps, please send an email. As simple as that. I've pulled the email in, and here's the survey form I've sent. And then if I open on my second screen and just get to my email, hopefully I should have, there we go. So if I pull in another application, you'll see I received an email here asking me to complete a survey form. And if I open this form up, what you should see here is a really simple kind of a home visit review form. And this came out in April this year. It's currently in preview, full availability in June, but now Microsoft have a valid form product that's completely free of charge. It's included in your Office 365 subscription, but surveys, responses can all be built purely in the Microsoft 365 stack. So you don't need to kind of go to having SurveyMonkey and lots of third-party data. And the nice thing in doing it this way is all of that data resides within your Office 365 tenanture. It's not going off to the US or various other locations around the world. Anything that's being completed here is staying within the tenanture. So I can come in here, fill the survey form in, do a bit of net promoter, even kind of describe what's the most important in terms of looking after dodos and submit that form. And that's all based on your Office 365 environment. And what we can then do is, based on that form being submitted, we could then have a flow job that then picks up those form results, looks at the data in the form that's been submitted, and then perform an action in any platform you wanted to. So it gives us the ability of kind of gluing all this data together. So everything always comes back round to Microsoft Flow to continue the next action. And what I will do is just show you how I actually built the application now in PowerApps. So I'm just going to come in here and get to the correct browser and go to PowerApps. So here's my remote worker app that I had open on my mobile phone. I'm just going to come in here and edit this application just to show you how simply we kind of created this product. Oh, I must have it open in another tab. Let me just find it. Yep, here we go. So it's all web-based. So if I come in here, you'll see I've got a series of screens that I've created, for example. So I've got my home screen. I've got my kind of check-in screen, and I've got my ability to kind of browse and look for data. And even my kind of check-in history screen that we had open before. And one of the nice things you'll see is when we're building apps, these apps are actually interacting with the data whilst you're building them, which does make life as a developer and a low-code developer a lot easier. So you're not having to constantly go into kind of debug to see how this works. This data is kind of rendered to you. So if I look at my remote check-in, for example, here, to generate a map on the page, all I've done is called the Bing Maps and said I want a map for this location. Simple as that. If I look at my check-in button, all it's doing is calling a Microsoft Flow and giving it the data off the screen. It's saying, call this Microsoft Flow, give it the person who's run it, as in who is the person opening the app, pass in the signature, pass in the location where they are, and pass in their full name. So it's basically saying, when I click this button, all the fields are filled in, just give it to Microsoft Flow. There's no kind of complicated coding or complicated logic, it's just going to do that work for me. The saying goes, if I looked at my kind of survey form button here, my feedback button was simply a case of, please call this flow here, run it, and pass in the email address. Then optionally, what we could do here, which I'll show you in the next application, is we could have a response back from PowerApps as well. So it gives us that complete kind of control of building and editing this environment. And just to then extend this a bit further, when we're talking about collecting data, so I'm currently in the screen here that's collecting my notes about a case visit. Because PowerApps is completely aware of Dynamics 365 and aware of its source, this has been automatically generated for me because it knows about Dynamics 365 data. If I wanted to add a new field onto this form, I could literally highlight the form, do edit fields, and click add. And it will know, because I'm in Dynamics 365, these are all the fields I could pick. So if I wanted to maybe add in an additional field of I've got description in here. Let's pick a better field. If I wanted to add in the priority, so if we need to add that into the form, I could quickly do add. It's going to come in here. It's added priority at the bottom, but I want it up here. It's as simple as that in terms of developing and adding fields to the form. There's no kind of a coding or having to say, I've added a field, therefore this data needs to be placed into this database. All of that hard work and grunt behind the scenes is being done for you automatically. So what we're going to do next is kind of step into more of one that's slightly more complex, because we're using other elements outside of Flow to kind of show you the kind of the art of the possible. So I'm going to come in here now, and what I've basically built is a volunteer sign-up application. So we'll start off by running it in kind of non-edit mode and just show you how that works, and then we'll kind of dip in and kind of show you how this things. One of the nice things with PowerApps is you don't need to do it on a phone or a tablet. You can run them natively in the browser as well. So in this particular scenario, I'm just going to run it in the browser to make my life a little bit easier. So I'm just going to come in here, and then so what you see is I've created two icons. I've got an app that I'm walking around with trying to sign up volunteers as a employee of the charity. One option could be looking at existing volunteering, seeing whether we've got their details. One could be signing up a new volunteer. So I'm just going to click sign up, and the first thing it's going to do is going to take a photo of the app of the person in question. So it's going to come in, take a photo of me, and I'm going to save that and go on to the next screen. And it's probably slightly out of context, but what I'm trying to show you is the reason it's doing that is I've taken that photo, I've passed it into Microsoft AI, and it's looked at the photo, worked out what my estimated age is and what my gender is. Again, it's just an example of how this might potentially work. It could pass in lots of more details about that photo. And then going forward, we could then teach it who that volunteer is. So using the Microsoft Face APIs, for example, the next time that volunteer came up to you, you could physically take a photo of them, and we could use that to retrieve their actual record, because we've got full facial recognition once we have a single image of a person. So again, nice simple elements we could do within here. So I'm going to come in here and add a new volunteer in.
Pretty accurate on your age, James.
I don't know why I've got younger. So yesterday I was 43, which was accurate, but
Okay.
it's making me younger each day at the moment.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. I don't know why when I'm unshaven it makes me slightly younger. So I'm just going to fill in an address, put some details in. Fill in some basics. I'll actually put an email as well. So I filled in some basic details, and I'm going to save that data. So I've filled in this volunteer thing. That record is going straight into Dynamics 365 at this moment in time. So you'll see at the bottom here, you see a little swirly. So it's doing that, posting it into Dynamics 365. And the next thing I'm going to do here is literally just request approval for that volunteer. So I'm going to click this button here, which again is going to call a different process to request approval for that volunteer to be approved. So with a bit of luck now, that should have now sent the notification to my mobile phone. Any second now. There you go. So I'm just going to re-mirror my phone screen. Oh, it should still be open somewhere. There we go. So you'll notice on my phone screen here, I've actually been prompted to now approve this volunteer record. So my top record here is asking me to approve somebody. And because this is all nicely integrated, sorry, it's my work phone, so I'm actually getting loads of real notifications as I come up. So one of the nice things with Microsoft Flow and the approval process is it's multifaceted. It can send a push notification directly to my mobile phone to do something. It would have also emailed me in real time saying, look, this has happened, do you want to approve it? And thirdly, if I actually go back into Microsoft Flow and go to my approvals portal, I just don't save that, I would also have an approval request sat here as well. So you could have a permanent screen open saying, these are my approvals that need to happen. I could have email, or I could have, in this particular scenario, the notification on my mobile phone. So I could say, yeah, Johnny Green's perfectly fine to be a volunteer, so I'm going to approve him on my phone, add some comments. Oh. Confirm. So that's going to go through, do all that sort of good stuff and accept that. And you'll see that I coded my message wrong and it still said I'm rejected. So that must be an error in my workflow then, but it has the ability of wherever you are, kind of triggering these kind of standard simple workflow actions, where classically that would have gone to a mailbox, you would have had to then click on a link, leave the system, where have those level of push notifications gives you lots more flexibility. And even here, so I think that should have automatically, it should automatically move in a little bit, but even if I did it within Outlook, you stay within the context of Outlook. So that's one of the nice things. It's not driving you away from what you're doing. And what I'll do is show you how that kind of product hung together now. So I'm going to come back into Microsoft Flow and kind of show you how this kind of elements worked. So I go to my flows. So the first thing is it was review photo. So I took a photo of the volunteer and I wanted to kind of look at that particular photo. So this is slightly more in depth. So I'm going to come in here and have a look at how this flow worked. So what I will do is actually show you what it actually generated as a result set first before I truly edit it. So you'll see in here, PowerApps got called and it passed in some data. So in a bit geeky, but it did that element there. Then what it actually then did is called the Microsoft Face API and passed in a series of data. That Face API then sent back all sorts of information to me. So the exact dimensions of my face, for example, if I was smiling or not, what my gender was, what my age was, even down to the point of, so apparently there's a 98% chance I was being particularly neutral, not smiling whatsoever. So again, you can see various elements of the emotions in here if you want to do any kind of emotion work. And even stuff like this. Luckily, you can see that I'm not wearing eye makeup and I'm not wearing lipstick. Yeah, but it did know it was a confidence that I was wearing glasses. And I'm not sure if it's got anything else. Yeah, and various kind of other bits in terms of hair color. So it's done lots and lots of information about that person. So it's pulled in lots and lots. But all I was really worried about was getting actually the gender and the age. So I've kind of come in here, looked at what it gave me, asked it to give me the gender, asked it to give me the age, and then simply as that, set those variables, and then pass that data back to Microsoft Flow. So there wasn't any code in any of this. So it looks more codey when I'm editing it, but in reality, it was creating PowerApps, calling this particular command, and then responding with what the gender was, what the age was. So again, it's all drag and drop coding. And then what that was actually doing in here is if I just kind of come in and edit this particular application. Just let it open up because it's quite a big application, this one, I think. It should be a bit quicker. All right. So again, as you see, it's a really simple kind of basic example here. So when I click the sign up button, it was simply the case of, because I clicked on this image, I've asked it to navigate to a page. I've asked it to go to page 1. Yeah. I also said, just in case, make sure that form's been reset and it's ready to go. So I went to page 1. And then page 1, all I was saying is when I click that camera button, I was basically clearing the current images I had of selfies. Then I was adding the selfie to a collection of data. So if I come in here and have a look, we might even see some data in the collections. We might not. There isn't any in there at the moment. But so that was basically coming here, taking a photo. And when I click save, slightly more geeky this time, I was actually asking it to give me some data back. So I created a variable called return variables, and then giving it the photo with the data I'd just taken, and then those variables were then being used further down the line. So when I click save, you'll also notice I did all of that, and then I said, when you've taken the photo, given it to them, navigate to this page, which was page 2. Now, if I look in here and look at some of these things, if I go to the estimated age fields, all I was doing is passing in the variable it was giving back and actually setting it to the age. And the same goes to the gender. I was actually literally saying, when it comes back, set it to gender. Really, really simple coding. And then here, when I was asking for approval, really simply again, I was just saying, I need to approve this volunteer, give me the ID of the record I just saved, and then just send in the photo again, because I was going to do some extra AI work, but I never quite got around to it. So really simple, just do that and then interact back with Flow. And then if I look at the approval process, just to show you how simple these elements are. So if I look at the volunteer approval logic here, again, just to show you, it's just a few clicks to achieve what we want to achieve. So if I edit this particular process here, so I've come in here, sorry, that's because I copied a flow. I updated the record to say we just wanted to get the kind of contact record, add some additional data onto it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm adding, I can't quite remember now. I was doing, yeah, adding the photo in a second time, just in case. And then what I did there is I responded to PowerApps saying I've done it, because I wanted PowerApps to not wait while somebody approved. And then in here, I added in a start approval block. Plus that, as a standard control in Flow that allows me to say I need something approving. Yeah. If this has been approved and I want James to approve it, and these are the details. So for example, if we wanted now to do maybe multi-levels of approval, maybe we had like a volunteer coordinator that needed to approve. And then in here, you'll see that I've said, if they're approved and the answer is yes, I'm going to create a record. But what happens if the volunteer's been approved by the volunteer coordinator? Maybe now we want to send an approval to the HR manager. I could come in here on my yes leg, click add action, and I could just add in another approval layer. So I could come in here to show you how simple it all is. I could go to approvals. Let's do a standard approval process here. And in this time, so what you see here, we've got various options. So we've got kind of everyone must approve, or the first responder. So we'll do first responder. And then can HR approve? And what I will do now is I just want to get the full name of the person. So because we've got the data there, I'm just going to click on full name. So now I've got can HR can approve this person. And then in a real world, I'd have a variable set up with my HR people, but just for the time being, we'll just send it to Gita Vita, if I could spell. So send it to Gina, who's our HR coordinator. Can you review, please? And if I save that, that's basically the next stage in there. So what all I'd do now is look at this particular approval process, and I'd now want to wait to see if they're approved or not. So I've sent an approval to HR saying, can you look at this record? So the next action I'd want to do then is have a condition and that condition is look what they said. So effectively, I want to come in here and I want to look at the approval, the response. And if that response was equal to approve, I could then do a set of actions. So in here, I could, if HR's approved them, maybe I want to write that data to another system. So I'm not sure what the current HR system is, but you can see here. So say if we had SharePoint, for example, where we were managing some of our HR data, I could now come in and create a record in SharePoint with just a couple of clicks. So that's where the power of the platform really starts to come into play, because it's not just Dynamics 365, it's lots and lots of different connectors. So it could be a Box, it could be Google, it could be anything else. So all of these are available to you. Like it could even be Salesforce if people kind of go to the dark side, but it's all available to you to kind of talk with, communicate with, and send data out. It could be various case management systems, but one of the nice things we've got is, obviously we've got 230 connectors at the moment, but we also have a HTTP control. And what that gives us the ability of doing is talking to anything that has a standard API. So with our HTTP control, pretty much 98% of systems on the market today will allow generic post and get controls. So if it was anything out there, we can always send data to, receive data from. So it just gives you that ability of complete control of the environment. All right, so I'm hoping that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of how we can kind of tweak flows, extend flows, and everything else.
Just got a couple of questions, James.
Yeah.
If that's okay. So got a couple of people asking, is any of this functionality limited to any Dynamics 365 version? So if you're on pre-April release, and is it available if you're on-premise Dynamics CRM?
Okay, so one of the things I haven't covered is most of this technology is designed around CRM Online. So a lot of this work is kind of designed around everything being in the physical cloud. So your ERP system being in the cloud, your dynamic system being in the cloud. But one of the things we can do is, if I go to connectors here, is we also now have the ability of enabling a on-premise data connector. There you go. So if I go to gateways, sorry. So effectively, we could install a local gateway on your infrastructure, and that would allow us to talk to classic kind of legacy applications, so SQL-based applications locally. So we are limited in what we can do, but you can kind of do some elements around there. So for example, if I was doing work in Dynamics 365 in the cloud and I wanted to send a little bit of data to Dynamics GP on-premise, we could use the on-premise data connector to achieve that. Regarding versions of Dynamics 365, there's once you're in the cloud environment, everybody's now automatically the latest version. So as long as you're on Dynamics 365 Online, all of this is available to you. And this is a constantly evolving platform with 2 release cycles per year. So it's always kind of moving, always changing in that sense. So that's where you can do that. But the on-premise data gateways is where you'd kind of look at doing some of the more classic CRM on-prem integrations.
Another question I have is just on the licensing, John. So yeah, if you've got Dynamics 365, you will have access to PowerApps and Flow. PowerBI will be priced separately. You'll be able to sort of surface the Power BI into those tools. I've got another slide on licensing, so I will cover that in a bit. Hopefully that's okay. Another question.
I'm just reading that, the complicated one regarding deployment options.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So so we've just had a question regarding how you kind of deploy and manage these environments. So the way this all basically boils back down to classic Dynamics 365. So if I'm in here, if I go back to my home of Flow and home of PowerApps, in the top right-hand corner here, you'll see it says Dodo V42. So when you have a PowerApps and kind of Power Platform environment, you can basically have multiple environments within it. So I have one database I'm in today called Dodo V42, but you see here I've got a series of other databases as well. So effectively, what you do is you could have production, UAT, development, all as separate environments. By having those as separate environments means that effectively you can develop in a dev environment and then place what you've done within a solution. So there are limitations. Currently, solutions only supports the apps and the flows. Solutions aren't Power BI or Proforms enabled, but it does give us the ability of kind of building all within a solution context now, and then moving that as a solution between environments. Have we got any questions, Tory?
Nope, I'll just go on to the licensing slide, but if you've got any questions, then please just add them to the chat window now. But otherwise, thanks, James.
Good.
I'll just run through onto the final 5 minutes. Right.
I'm just watching you back. You should be back now, Tory.
Great. So just to answer some of the questions in terms of how it's licensed. So the most important really thing is the PowerApps licensing. This is licensed on a per user named basis. Everyone must have an Active Directory account with the charity. So if you have, volunteers, for example, who aren't part of the Active Directory, that they're unpaid, so that they are truly volunteers in that sense, then they won't be able to use the PowerApp side of things. They would need to go through the portal, Dynamics portal. In terms of the PowerApp licenses, you're not limited on the number that you can create as well. There are 2 standalone plans. There's PowerApps Plan 1 and PowerApps Plan 2. There are limitations on the Plan 1, so we would recommend, if you are looking at this extensively, to look at the Plan 2. In terms of can you mix and match the licenses, so for example, you can have 50 licenses on Dynamics 365. That would also give you automatically 50 users for PowerApps Plan 2. But if you wanted more, so you wanted another 25, then you can just buy the PowerApps Plan 2 as well. So you don't have to have a Dynamics license to use the PowerApps, if that makes sense. So currently, and I will just reiterate, it is currently the pricing for Plan 2 is £12.10 per user per month. Plan 1 is a lot cheaper, but as I said, there are restrictions and limitations on that. If you would like a copy of these slides, please email me and I'll share my contact details in a second. But there is a great PowerApps pricing page on the Microsoft website. And just to note, you can sign up for a 30-day free trial. So that if people are considering it, they want to have a play about with it, then absolutely I would recommend signing up for the free trial. So just before I go on to the final slide, thank you very much for attending the webinar. We do run quite a lot of these webinars, probably 1 or 2 a month. The majority of them are on Dynamics 365. We do have also webinars on Dynamics Business Central, so Microsoft's Cloud Finance solution. We do have an event on the 26th of June. This is at Microsoft Paddington offices, and we're really going to be demonstrating the whole Microsoft stack in line with Dynamics 365 and integrated to Dynamics Business Central. This is just for charities, so we'll be looking at our NFP 365 solution for both finance and fundraising. So that should be a great event. And we do have lots of recorded webinars as well. So if you go to our website under resources, you can access all our case studies and our blogs and our white papers, as well as any recorded webinars that we have. The other webinars are also quite specific, so we're looking specifically at income processing, for example. We've got one specific for volunteers, so it's quite a good source of information there. So hopefully you've enjoyed this morning's webinar. Hopefully not too detailed and too technical, but in terms of if you'd like to know more, then please feel free to email me or call me. There's a general email address there. As I said, please visit the enhance.com webpage for more resources and information. So thank you very much. Hopefully you now know a bit more about the Power Platform and how it can all really work together to help with any digital transformation project that you're about to embark in, or any that you're midway through. Thank you very much. Hope everybody has a good day. Thank you, James. Thank you very much. Bye.